So I asked you all on Twitter, should I do a video about clickbait and a discussion about clickbait, because most people do not understand what clickbait means. It's infuriating, but I asked you guys on Twitter, and most of you guys said don't bother with it. But I'm asking you guys again here on YouTube, should I do a video talking about clickbait and the misunderstandings that surround it, or should I completely leave the subject alone and stop making meta YouTube videos and instead go back to my usual content, which is pseudo-intellectual garbage over video game gameplay? Whew, that was a good intro. Today we're talking about arbitrary standards, and this is a very important discussion because it doesn't just follow gaming, it follows your whole life, and you need to hear this. I definitely needed to. Actually, I kind of figured this one out for myself, and I learned this back in Modern Warfare 3. I learned it while playing online. Yes, kids, you can learn great things while playing video games. I'm playing online, okay? And I am playing free-for-all with a group of people, obviously, and I win the game by 2 kills. The second place player got 28 kills and I got 30. The second place player had more score though. I don't know if he just called in more care packages or what, but he had a couple hundred more score. He also had fewer deaths than I did. He decides to plug in his mic to tell me, "That's cute, but you still lost." I said, "How? It says I'm in first place." And he said, "Look, I have more score and less deaths than you. I clearly won that one." And I said, "Okay, but the game says that I won." The game is not about getting the most score or the least amount of deaths, it's about getting 30 kills in the allotted amount of time. And he decided to argue with me for a great while about this. But how does this relate to arbitrary standards? Well, it actually ties in very nicely. What the person did in that free-for-all match is he has a set of rules and standards for what it actually takes to win in a free-for-all match. Usually when people create these standards or rules, they're completely separate from the reality of the game or situation that they're in. In his mind, he won, and he wanted to convince me. Now, you could argue that the guy was just trolling me, but even if he was, it's still a great analogy, or point, or explanation, or example. There we go. Let's just say that you believe the only true way to win in free-for-all is by having the most score and the fewest deaths, then you will win even if you lose. It's like this. You create a board game, and you allow your friends to play it with you, and then you spring on them that only you get to read the rulebook. People that set up standards are doing that exact same thing. Here is the situation, and only I have the true rulebook for it. I'm really bad with R's, so when I say rulebook, it sounds like rulebook. I'm a little retarded. This is not limited to the rules of video games. This also spreads to people's opinions on media and politicians. And I don't know why I'm trying to list things off. I can just sum this up with everything. People will apply these standards to everything. And for the most part, they're arbitrary. They're not set in any reason. They're not set in any understanding or fact to what they are. It's on the whim, the emotional whim of the person creating them. But let's take this back to video games. When it comes to things like Battlefield, I've heard a lot of arbitrary standards as to how players are supposed to play. In fact, I've been railed on for using ACOG sights or 4x sights on my snipers in Battlefield 4. Being told I don't know how to actually snipe, I don't know how to play Battlefield, I'm a COD faggot. And that kind of thought comes from some sort of standard, and everybody needs to come up to this standard. And here's the beauty of this, and this is why people do this. When you create the rules, when you create some sort of arbitrary standard as to what movies, what video games, what Call of Duty, what books, what everything should be, when you have your own rulebook, it's really easy for you to achieve some sort of illusion of success. For instance, you might think that the only thing that makes a good player in Call of Duty, for instance, and I've heard this, you have to at least be able to get 30 kills a game. The people I've heard say this are people that can only get 30 kills a game. They don't really get more than 30, they don't play the objective very well, they don't get a lot of triples and quads and long streaks, they even get like more deaths. But as long as you can pull out 30 kills, you're good. All that person needs to do to feel good about themselves is to reach their own standard, get to the bar that they set. But here's where it becomes a standard, when the bar is set for everyone else. We as people cannot create arbitrary rule books, guidebooks, standards for other people to come up to. And that for success sake, all we have to do is reach our own goal. Maybe you're not getting promoted at the job that you work at, but you feel like you're the best worker there. And that might be because you've created some sort of standard as to what makes a good worker, and you've achieved it for yourself, even though no one around thinks the same way, seeing how you don't have that promotion. Arbitrary standards can also cloud your personal preference, and here's how. I have a friend that's constantly looking to play games and have moments that remind him of old moments, remind him of his old friendships, old alliances, old gameplay times, reminding him of what it felt like to have a little bit more innocence when it comes to video games. Remembering what it was like to play with old groups, remembering what it was like to have passion and wanting to do well. If something doesn't give him that feeling, he feels like he's been shortchanged. This is a horrible way to live. You cannot have some sort of rule book that everything else needs to comply with, otherwise it's garbage, it's trash, you won't enjoy it as well. Instead of embracing things, accepting things, just create your own rules. Create your own universe where this needs to happen, and if it doesn't, it'll always fall short to you. In conclusion though, something being arbitrary isn't a bad thing. Judging something based on the whims of your emotions and personality is not inherently terrible. And setting bars for particular things, and when those particular things don't get up to that bar, we feel disappointed, that's totally normal. I have that with almost every form of new media and person I meet. They kinda have to reach my standard. When it comes to TV shows, I like depth to my characters. When it comes to people, they have to act a certain way for me to get along with them. When they start acting a different way, I just don't get along with them that well. And what I just described there is perfectly normal. Of course, there's certain shows you won't watch. There's certain people you won't hang out with, and that's fine. And the big takeaway here is sometimes embracing something doesn't mean blindly accepting. It just means lowering that bar a little bit, because we all set them. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. If you did, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, follow me on Twitter, and if you use code BOOM, you can get $10 off Victoria's Secret orders of $300 or more. And I'm sorry I made the B-movie meme. I didn't do it for views or fame. I just thought it was a funny idea and I did it. And somehow it's getting more views than Mindset and Milsim, which is stuff that I actually edit and think about. And that kind of breaks my heart. So yeah, fuck YouTube, I guess. I'm quitting my channel at 50 million subs. Peace. I'm out!